first things first, let's figure out how we can open up PowerPoint. So the couple different ways. I have PowerPoint installed on my computer here. It's part of the Office suite, so you don't necessarily have PowerPoint when you buy your computer, so you might need to go and get Microsoft Office, which has Word and PowerPoint and Excel and a couple other tools. If you don't see it on your taskbar, one of the things you can do is just go to the run line and just say type in PowerPoint, POWER, and it looks like I have two versions of PowerPoint, PowerPoint 2013, and then 2016. So I'm going to use 2016 today. If you have 2013 at home, everything should work fine. Either way, I can open it from here or I can open it from the desktop, but I'm just going to open it from the line here. And then when PowerPoint opens up, it gives you a selection of different templates, or you can use the blank template. I do want to start with some kind of a template, and I would recommend like taking a look at these templates. For example, you can search for different types of things. So for example, if I wanted to do something on science, I can go up here and type in science and hit enter, and then hopefully like science-based templates come up, and it looks like they are. One of the things I'll also reference is that we have a video that we just watched, and one of the videos that I really like is the TED Talk, TED Death by PowerPoint. I'll hit enter and see this. This is David Phillips' Death by PowerPoint. So I'll definitely include that in the comments. Back into PowerPoint. First thing I might do is I might pull out a blank presentation, and just to get started. So I click on blank presentation. The first thing that comes up is basically a title slide. PowerPoint has different types of layouts that you can use. This is a title slide layout, and there's other layouts here too. So when you look across, let's just look at the interface for a second. Just like all the other Office applications, PowerPoint has our design area here. Up here, it has the area called the ribbon, and just like in Word and Excel, you have different tabs that you can click on. So Home, Insert, Design, Transitions, Animations, and so forth. And we'll be looking at different points of that in today's little workshop. So I'm going to go back to the Home area. And Home, you already recognize that we have, like for example, if I click on the text, you see that we have the text widget here. That's basically virtually the same as in Word. You have paragraph stylings and so forth. But it also includes shapes and things like that. Let's mess around with this. So it says, when it says click to add title, basically you click on the area and then you can just add a title. So we'll say PowerPoint demo, because that's what we're doing today. And then I'll have a subtitle, and we'll say Scott and class. Okay. The other cool thing about PowerPoint is like in Word and the other Office products, if you misspell something, it's going to give you the red underline. So let's misspell class on purpose. So I spell class like that. And now when I click back on it, it says, oh, I don't know what that is. And so I know that I purposely misspelled it, but if I right click on it, it might give me some choices. So I could choose to ignore it, but in this case it is wrong. So I'm just going to say class. The next thing I'm going to do, this looks just fine, first page. It's boring, and we'll talk about juicing it up a little bit in a minute. One of the crazy things about PowerPoint is like, how do you get that next slide in there? Well, basically on the later versions of PowerPoint, they put new slide, this little new slide icon. And if you go to insert, you also have the new slide icon here. Now it's more available. So let me show you what we might do. I'll go back to home. And when I click on new slide, you'll see that I have several different templates. I have the title slide template. A lot of times we use the title and content. That's where you have the header and the bullet points underneath. One's title only. And then sometimes I like to use this one that's just blank. I do a lot of graphics work in PowerPoint and so forth. And sometimes it's just nice to have a blank template. But the first one we'll start with, besides the title slide, we're going to add title and content. So we'll see what that looks like. So I'm going to click on that. And then here is title and content slide. So it's click to add a title. And we're going to call this adding text. Okay, so on this slide, what we're going to do is we're going to play around with the bullet points here. And so I'm going to go ahead, it says click to add text. And so I go, okay, stuff goes here. Now, when I click enter, I get another bullet point. So I can say, okay, more stuff, and then stuff, stuff, stuff. So basically pretty easy to add text in your bullet points, not a problem with that. Another nice thing is that when you click on your text, you can also make changes to the fonts, and there is a little preview. Sometimes the preview thing gets a little bit in the way, so I'm going to try and find something that looks a little bit more juicy and readable, just to show you that we can change the text at any point. And for example, if we wanted to use this font called Forte, okay, stuff goes here. Okay, more stuff, more stuff. Not that that's a very readable font, so let's get something that's a little bit more readable. How about we use something like Georgia? Okay, here's Georgia. Okay, stuff goes here. Okay, more stuff, 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 stuff. The other thing is we can change the font sizes. You know, like you can make it bigger by clicking the bigger, or you can actually choose a font size with the numbers, and it previews it for you nicely here. So you have all of these kind of options. Another option that you have is to put a shadow underneath your text, and that kind of looks good when you have a problem with contrast, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute when we do that. One of the things I kind of like to do right away, I'm going to undo this. That's the other thing. We have undo, redo. This is great. So I just say undo, 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 and you have so many layers of undo. I'm going to make this text a little bigger so my audience can see it. Okay, and this for adding text, we will make this a little bit more fancy here. I'll use the Forte for that, and then make that a little bit bigger. So far, this is really just kind of a very boring presentation. And sometimes what I like to do is I like to just jump into a design just to kind of get my juices going, I guess. So I'm going to pick a design, and just like when we watched our Death by PowerPoint, what I'm going to try to do is pick something with a dark background. You'll see that when I go to the Design tab that there are several different templates that I can use, and remember that there's also variations on the template. So you might really like this template for some reason, but you want to have a variant that's a darker variant. So you can play around with these variants and so forth, which is kind of fun. I'm going to choose this one here, and I like the style of this, but I think I want to have a darker background, so I'm going to choose the variant with the darker background. Okay, so I just choose that, and notice that it changes all of our slides, and so that's kind of cool. So you can kind of step into that, set up a background, and you know, it's a little bit more motivating and so forth. Now we're going to add a slide, and so in order to add a slide, what I'm going to do is I can either go to Home or Insert. I'll just go to Home again, and I'm going to choose a new slide, and this time we're going to look at how to put a graphic in your PowerPoint. So I am going to choose Title Only for this. I'm going to call this title Adding Graphics. Okay, great. So now under here, I don't have anything to click on, but what I can do is I can just really easy just to put a graphic in there. So when I want to insert things, I just go to basically the Insert tab, and I have lots of choices here. I have pictures, which are pictures that are from my computer. I have online pictures, which, you know, obviously you get, you know, find on the web. You can take screenshots. There's photo albums, shapes. We'll talk about smart art. You could even embed a video or audio into your PowerPoint. We'll look at that in just a second, because I have one that I want to add a video to. So first things first, let's add a graphic. For this example, I'm going to choose online pictures, and it comes up with a little Bing image search, which is Microsoft's little search program. And for this example, I think because we're working with technology, I'm going to choose, I want a picture of a laptop. Okay, so I'm going to hit Enter, and it gives me these. Now, one of the things I want you to mention here is that the first results that come up are basically under a Creative Commons license. And for those, what's nice about that is that you don't have to cite the sources. You can just use those. It's not copywritten. It's kind of copywritten under an open license that everybody can use. You can get more results if you choose Show All Results, but make sure that if you're going to present a PowerPoint, especially in public, that you have permission to use whatever graphics and so forth that you want. Okay, so let's just pick a nice picture of a laptop, and I think this one will do. and I'm just going to choose insert. It's a little bigger than I wanted, but just like in Microsoft Word, PowerPoint has all of the different kind of controls. You can grab the handles and you can squeeze it vertically, horizontally, and so forth. I'm going to undo both of those. Another trick is that if you hold down Shift and grab the corner, it will constrain the proportions of your laptop, or of your picture, I should say. And you can also rotate it as needed here. So it gives you some kind of cool options. Now I'm going to undo that because I want to do something special with this graphic. The graphics in PowerPoint actually work really well, and I do actually do sometimes graphic design with PowerPoint, believe it or not. When I click on my image, you'll see that the toolbar up here, the ribbon, changes to graphical properties. One of my favorite things is to actually remove the background of some of these images. And there's a couple ways to do that. One way that might not work for this as well, but I'm going to try it out anyway, is that if you can go to the area called color, and I can say set transparent color. And what that's going to do is I click on this, and when I click at, say, in this white space, it's going to delete all of that stuff that's white in the background, which is kind of cool. And it's mostly what I want, but you'll notice that I still have this shadow area here that's not quite getting it. So I'm not going to do this one that way. I'll do something else that way, but let me undo that. Another way to get rid of background in your images is to go ahead and choose remove background. And just like in Microsoft Word, now what remove background does, I'm going to stretch this out over the entire image. Whatever is going to be in pink is going to go away. Whatever's not pink is going to stay. So I need to make a couple changes because I want this area to show up and I want this area to show up. So I'm going to say, okay, mark areas to keep. And then I was just trying to draw a little line right here and see how that works. Okay, that's almost working. Draw a little line here and maybe here. Couple boinks here, and I'm just kind of clicking around the image. Sometimes I'll draw a line if it's a straight line and just kind of do that. Okay, for the most part, let me just draw another little bit here. I don't want this. Okay, for the most part, I think this is looking pretty good. So I'm going to say, okay, keep changes. And you see that now we have this cool laptop, but it's just kind of floating and so forth. Now I'm going to resize it. I'm going to size it down a little bit. And you can also add effects to it. It's like, for example, if I wanted to add, say, a drop shadow. Now, the drop shadow is not going to show up so much on the black background, but as an example, I'll show you what it looks like against a white background. Let me go back to the design and choose a white variant. So you see this drop shadow that I added to the computer, for example. Let me take that off. I'll put like let's see if I add a drop shadow. Here's drop shadow. And see what it does. It makes it look like it's kind of floating on the page. I'm going to change back to my darker background because I like that. Okay, so here's a graphic that I added from the web. No problem, copyright free, all good. I'm going to go back to insert. I want to insert another graphic, but this time I have something on my computer that I want to add, or you have it on your phone or whatever. So I'm going to choose pictures. And for this one, I want to choose a picture of myself, which is goofy, but I figured that'd be okay because it's a picture of me, and I think I even took it myself. So I'm going to click on that picture and I'm going to say insert, and it'll go ahead and insert. Now this is way too big, so I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to short it down a little bit. Okay, and I think that looks kind of okay, but what I might want to do is, since it's all kind of square and it doesn't really, kind of go with my pattern here, what I might do, let me try something maybe with fuzzy edges. And so I'm going to choose a picture style, and I'm going to choose the soft edge, and then that might be a little bit better. I have my little laptop here, and just to kind of show you the kind of random stuff that you can do, let's go ahead and say, okay, I want to do another online picture, and I want to do something with sushi. So why not? Just kind of picking something. And I think these California rolls would probably look pretty good. Again, they're showing me the results that I can use without having to cite them. It's a Creative Commons license. I'm going to choose these little California rolls, and I'm going to add it to my thing. Now, I have some sushi here, looking good. I think I'm going to remove the background as well, and that's looking pretty good so far. I have one little area here that I want to make sure that I get rid of. So this time I'm going to say mark area to remove. And I'm just going to remove this little bit here, boom, and then say keep the changes. Now here I have my sushi rolls. Okay, that's pretty cool. And if I want to, I can do a kind of another cool effect with it. Like, for example, I think there's one in here that's like a reflection. Let's see here. How about it where am I looking for? I'm not quite getting what I want here. Let's see. I like the preview though because it kind of previews what you're gonna do. Here is this. This has like a nice reflection, but for some reason it wants to keep the background in it. I have to tell you, I think I'm pretty happy with these sushi rolls just like they are. So I'm just going to leave it. Might rotate it a little bit. There we go. Put that there. Okay, so adding graphics, no worries. Let's do one where we can add a video. So I'm going to go ahead and go to new slide. And then let me show you another trick. Sometimes I have a slide that I want to look similar to the previous slide that I just did. There's another trick that you can use. You can say, you go to new slide, but you can say duplicate selected slides, which is kind of cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate that. It creates an exact copy of the first slide. And I can go into my second slide here and I can make some changes. I'll delete this picture and delete this picture and delete this picture. I'm going to change the title here to adding video. Okay, so now we're going to add a video to our package, our slide deck. So I'm going to go to Insert again, and this time instead of pictures or online pictures, I'm going to choose video. Okay, and I'm going to choose online video because I'm going to grab something from YouTube, which, by the way, new PowerPoint plays well with YouTube. We used to have a problem trying to import and get YouTube videos working, but now it works pretty well. So now I have YouTube up here, and you can actually search YouTube from right here. And so I have a video that I wanted to use. This is my band, and so I can kind of use that without copyright infringement. And let's hit enter and see what comes up. Okay, so I got my video here. And so I want to go ahead and insert that into my PowerPoint. And just like that, it's right here. Now, it's not going to play until you preview it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. I might want to put like a frame around it just because. Let me see about this. Like here's just like a little frame. Okay, so I put a frame around it. Let's see what happens when I play it. Sometimes I have students that like do wonderful PowerPoint presentations, but when it comes time to do the presentation, they don't know how to, get it going on the screen. Well, PowerPoint doesn't make it too obvious, and I kind of get that. One way of getting it to play is if you look down here, this is the little slideshow icon. That's one way of doing it. The other trick is to use F5. F5 will allow it to play. And you can also go into, to make it play, you can also go into where it says slideshow. And you can say play from beginning, play from current slide, and so forth. So I'm going to choose slideshow right now and say play from current slide. Let's see what happens. Okay. So I have my video in here. And it looks like in order to play my video, I need to click on it. So I click on it. And it works. We don't need to go into the details. All right, so I have a video. And so to get out of my preview, I'm just going to hit escape. I'm back. If I have my slides in the order I want, that's great. But if I am out of order, one of the nice things that we have here is the ability to, on this side here, it's called the slide sorter. And so I can just actually grab a slide and I can put it right up and change the order of slides as needed. And so that's another kind of cool trick to do. All right, let's do some more work. Let's do some text and some graphics. I have my adding text slide here. I'm going to go ahead and go to the home area, new slide, and I'm going to do a duplicate of that. So I'm going to say duplicate selected slides. And so it's going to make this nice adding text slide. I'm going to bring it down to the bottom. And for this slide, what I'm going to do is just kind of say, okay, so here I have some text. And now I'm going to add some shapes. Let's just go with some shapes for now. So I'm going to choose a shape. And let's say I wanted to make a quickie flow chart. And I'm just going to click here and it kind of gives me that flow chart. Now, we'll mess around with the effects later. But let me just get some things in here for flow chart. So I go back to shapes or insert. And I'm going to choose my other shapes. For my flowchart, I also want to have a diamond. So we're going to pop a diamond in here. I also want to have another shape for my flowchart, and that shape is going to be rounded process. Okay, so now I have 3 different shapes that I can use with my flowchart. So I'm going to use this to start. I'm going to use this one as a question, okay, and then I'm going to use this one as a process. Okay, so for example, what's nice about these shapes is that you could just go ahead and type text right into it. And so let's do an example of a simple iteration with a flowchart. Okay, so this is what happens when I get up in the morning. The first thing that happens is that the alarm rings. So I type that in. Now, the question that I ask myself is, am I still tired? Obviously, my text has kind of come off of the graphic, so I'm going to need to make this a little bit bigger, or I can change the size of the text. Either way, I think I'm going to go with the making it bigger because I still have some real estate to use. Okay, still tired, question mark, and that's going to be a question. And my alarm ringing, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger as well, just a bit, kind of size it up with my little flow chart here. All right, I'll line it up in the center line. Okay, now, if I am still tired, what I'm going to do is I am going to hit snooze, right? So let me type in here, hit snooze. Now, once I hit snooze, what happens? It goes back to alarm rings, right? If I'm not tired, I'm going to fall out of that. I'm going to copy and paste this, Control C, Control V, and paste this. And if I'm not tired, I'm going to wake up. Now, I can also connect these things up together, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, so the alarm rings, okay, and I'm going to grab this little arrow here, and I'm just going to draw my arrow from here to here. Boom. There's my arrow. I think I want to make it a little bit thicker. Let's say that thick. Okay, so now I have my little arrow here. Now, if I'm still tired, and the answer is yes, I'm going to hit snooze. So let me go back to Insert, and I'm going to choose my shapes. And I'm going to choose another arrow, and I'm just going to draw this arrow from here to here, okay, and change the weight. Now, normally what I kind of do is like once I have an arrow that I like, I'm not going to make all that business about changing the size. I'm just going to go ahead and copy it, Control C, and then Control V, and I'm going to paste that same arrow right here and use this arrow that I've already kind of designed. Okay, no problem. Now, if the alarm rings and I'm still tired, I hit snooze, and then what happens next? Well, 9 minutes later, I don't know why it's 9 minutes, but 9 minutes later, it's going to ring again. So I'm going to connect an arrow from here to here. Okay, I'm going to move this little point out so it's about there. And on this one, now get this. One of the things I love that works in Word and it works in PowerPoint and so forth is this thing called Format Painter. And Format Painter is awesome. Let me just change this outline to something a little bit more complicated. I'm going to make this like kind of a fat one. And let's see what else I can do. Can I change the arrowheads? So I'm going to change this arrow head to be more like this. I think this is what I want. Now, I like this style a lot. So what I'm going to do is when I go to Home tab, I'm going to choose the object that I want to copy and format. I'm going to choose this Format Painter, and then I click on what I want to change, and that automatically changes to inherit the properties of this. That's pretty cool, right? I love the Format Painter. So now I'm just going to make a copy of this, copy, paste, and take this arrow down to here and can do that. So now I have my little example of iteration. Okay, so when I talk about looping or whatever in a programming class, I can talk about this. The other thing is I might want to add a little text box for my yeses and nos. And so let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to insert a little text box, and I'm going to say on this side, it's going to say yes. Okay, and I'll bring that up a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to copy that, Control C, Control V. Now this is going to be the no side. Okay. No. All right. So this is how you can kind of design with little shapes and things like that. And for this example, we made a little flow chart, which is kind of cool. I'm going to highlight all of it and just move it over just a little bit. If I wanted to, I change my title to flow chart. Okay, great. So we have that. If we play the presentation from the beginning, I can go to the slideshow tab and I'll say play from beginning. Okay. Now, normally you can use the space bar, a mouse click, or the arrow keys to advance the slide. I like the arrow keys because you can go forward and back and so forth. So I'm going to hit forward. Okay. It changes to the video. And if I want the video to play, I can click on it. Later, I'll show you how to automatically start the video when you do that, because you can just set an event for it. Here's my adding text slide. And then finally, my adding graphics and my flowchart. Okay, great. So that looks cool. I can do a little bit more. One of the things that I want to talk about now is something called a transition. Now, a transition is how one slide goes into the next slide. And there's lots of cool little transitions. Think about your transitions though when you're presenting, and make sure that they're kind of relatively appropriate, because a lot of this stuff can be a little bit over the top. So let me go to transitions for a second, and let's take a look at some of these transitions and see what it really does. So for example, one of the ways that you can do that is a simple fade. Okay, so this is like kind of fading one into another. That's a subtle transition, but it works pretty well. Something else like a wipe, where it just kind of wipes into the other one. But then you have some really exciting things like checkerboard. Okay, checkerboard. Or one of my favorites is the airplane. I love airplanes, so it turns it into a little airplane, flies away. Okay, I would just play around with it. I like the honeycomb one, or glitter is quite cool too. This is glitter. Like that. So if you like that transition, you can actually apply it to the current slide, or you can apply it to all the slides. Now for this example, I'm going to choose something a little bit more simple, and I'm going to choose basically a nice fade between my slides. So I'm going to choose fade. Now when I present my slideshow, I'm going to use this slideshow icon. You can see that when I go between slides, I have that. Now I have this kind of nice fade between these two. See that? Nice fade. That one was only on the current slide. Now, if I wanted to apply that to all of them, I can click on apply to all. Now, when I go to like the beginning of my slideshow, let's say from the beginning, I have this nice fade and a fade and a fade and a fade. That's kind of cool. So those are transitions. I recommend playing around with that. Let me just try something a little bit more. Let's try vortex. We'll see how that looks. And I think a vortex would be good right there. So I'm not going to apply it to all, but I'm going to apply it to this slide. So I just pick vortex. Then when I go back to my slideshow and I go between them, vortex, that's a pretty cool effect. I kind of dig that. Now it just affected that one transition, so the other ones are still doing my nice fades, okay? But now I have this vortex effect here, which looks pretty cool, especially with this setup. Nice. Okay, next topic. Let's talk about doing some simple animation, all right? For the next topic, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to insert, and I'm going to insert a new slide, and I think I just want another title only, because for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a screenshot, and I'm going to grab a screenshot, and for this one, I'm going to have a simple arrow point to something on the screen, okay? So a lot of times I'm doing software demos and saying, hey, do this, do this, do this. And in PowerPoint, it's not quite the same as having a video. Like with video, I can just boink around and you can see where I click and so forth. It's like a screen capture. But if I'm doing a presentation, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to demonstrate where things are. You know, you might need to have a laser pointer or something, but this is kind of a cool trick. Let's say, for example, we were trying to teach someone how to print something in Word. We have somebody that's brand new. And I love new computer users because it's for them that I have things to teach. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate people that if they don't know everything about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, adding animations or adding an animation. This is one that I like a lot because it's very useful, and I'll show you what I mean. Again, going back to our example, let's say we're in Microsoft Word, we want to teach somebody how to print. All right, so this is just a simple one. I'm going to open up Word here, okay, and wait, and I'm going to go ahead and like say open up this template. Not a big deal, anything you want. I'll just create it, boom, okay, it's on the page. Now, let's say I want to print this. I'm not going to use that movement of video. What I'm going to use is an actual animation in PowerPoint. So if I wanted to print this, I would go to File and then Print. One of the things I like, create like an arrow, and I can say, hey, look, push this button, okay? So I'm going to show you how that looks. Now, this is a cool trick. I don't know if I've showed you this before. This is not part of PowerPoint, but it's part of Windows. It's called the snipping tool, S-N-I-P, and it's called the snipping tool, and it's kind of neat. I'm going to click on snipping tool, and what I want is I want to get a picture of the screen. So I'm going to say new, and now because we're talking about print, I'm going to go ahead and highlight this little print area, okay? And I want to use this in my graphics. So I've copied that. I'm going to go ahead and say edit and copy. Now I'm going to get rid of my word here. Don't need it anymore. So now I have it in the clipboard. So now I can just go right click and I can say paste. So I'll paste it in here. That's kind of neat. And what I want to do is demonstrate how to, for the user, where to click to print. I mean, it's pretty obvious to us, but new users and so forth. So what I'd like to do is I want an arrow to come across here and just point right at this thing. How about make it even more obnoxious? We'll make it a red arrow. All right. So going back to insert, I'm going to shapes, and I want to get an arrow. I'll take this arrow here, and I'm going to draw this arrow out here. I think the green arrow is kind of cool. Green means go or whatever. So what I kind of want to have happen is I want my arrow to come in from the side. I want to animate this arrow. So the first thing is I'm going to put it where it needs to go, at the final destination of where it is. So I want it to show up and say print here. Now I'm going to go to my animations tab, and I'm going to choose add animation. Okay. Now for this one, I want to use something called fly in. Okay, because I'm going to have it fly in. So let me show you what fly in looks like. Now that's not quite what I wanted because it's coming in from the bottom and it's a little bit too fast. Not a big deal. What I can do is I can change that. Let's change the effect option here because I really want it to fly in from the left. So I'm going to change the option. I'm going to say, okay, from the left. Okay, there we go. Now I can also change other things. Like for example, the duration right now is ½ a second. Why don't we make it 1 second, which will take a little longer. So how do I want this to start? Well, I can have it start on click, or I can say with previous, which would mean that as soon as the slide opens, it's going to go. Or I can say after previous. And right now I don't have anything to go after, so I'm just going to set it up for an on-click event. Okay. So now, when I take a look at this, let me preview this slide. Okay, here it comes. And when I click on the slide, here comes my arrow. Boom. Click here. How cool is that? All right, so that's going to be our little demo for today. Keep a lot of that stuff in mind. Watch that PowerPoint talk about Death by PowerPoint. I think it's really useful for some ideas as far as design goes. And have a great day.